Hey there, internets. So, a couple things this week. One, we had more stuff going on with that Colorado shooter. Two, President Trump announced his re-election bid, and I just have a couple of thoughts, not related to whether he'd win or not, but just for some people wanting to talk about President Trump from certain angles. So let's talk about that Colorado shooter. As soon as you like this video, comment if you like it. Comment whether you like it or not. Appreciate it if you do. Even disagreeing comments. And share it with your friends if you find any value. So, Colorado shooter. Everyone's calling this guy, saying it's hate. How do we know? Or is it just a convenient narrative because you don't like what certain other people are saying? No one has said his motivation other than it happened to be a nightclub that was popular with people in the LGBTQ community. Now, violence against anybody is wrong. If you're thinking it's a good idea to advance your cause, you're wrong. If you think you're going to make a statement, you're wrong. You're certainly not going to make a positive statement. So, we don't know what this guy's motivation is. We know that he apparently broke Colorado law if he had more than a 10-round magazine, so we know how well that magazine ban worked. We know it was a gay nightclub. We know he identifies as non-binary, and this is not just a made-up thing. I've seen some video of some commentators saying, oh, well, this is just an attempt to change the narrative. Well, for the defense, of course, in the court of public opinion, they're, of course, wanting to let it get out there. One less thing to charge, make it easier to do a certain charge. Of course, the prosecution and the defense are going to be trying to manipulate the public opinion beforehand. My one jury duty experience was not a good one because they were trying to manipulate us before the trial even started. And I wasn't getting on that jury because I could think. So, where does blame go? On the shooter. It does not go on people taking videos and saying, look what's going on and this other side is saying. Like libs of TikTok. I haven't heard anyone busting the quartering, but the quartering shares a short almost every day, a couple of them saying, these people are insane. Libs of TikTok, all they do is, sometimes they cut them into one larger video, but here's a bunch of people talking about teaching kids about gender identity or LGBTQ, or that are too young to be discussing it not in a matter of like when I was going through sex ed in 5th grade, where we said, somebody asked what actually meant if somebody was gay, and the teacher said, well, that's would be a man that likes other men. Somebody asked about sex change, and the teacher said, well, this is what this does. And it was very brief, very broad to explain it, and that was it. It wasn't learn a bunch of fake genders and how to address pronouns and all that other garbage. So, but these are, and people understand, these are videos, you're basically taking the other side's argument and sharing it for them to people that might be hostile. How is that promoting hate unless you think what you are saying is going to anger people that much? And then your words. And this applies to Matt Walsh. I've never heard, and most nights I will put my wife and I will listen to Matt Walsh's program, sometimes actually watch it, and we'll even discuss it. I've never heard Matt Walsh say, engage in violence. I haven't heard him use a dog whistle. I got news for you. Dog whistles don't exist. The whole idea of a dog whistle is you say something and only your supporters are going to hear the hidden message. Sorry, there's no hidden message from Matt Walsh saying engage in violence. He says, work with your legislators. Write your legislators. Let politicians know that you don't approve of sex changes for kids. That's the kind of stuff he has done. When you're sharing what people put out themselves, that is not hate. It's not stochastic terrorism. Okay, everyone on the right is saying don't engage in violence. But that's not a convenient narrative for the left. And just like when the guy was trying to throw bricks through the windows of a gay nightclub in New York. They tried to charge him with hate crimes. He was like, hey, by the way, I'm gay. I had a problem with how they were treating a female friend of mine. That's just a drunk being a drunk. It just happens to be that he's gay, and the place he was at was a place popular with the gay community. It had nothing to do with anyone's sexuality. All right, so the facts still aren't fully out, and it seems like they're trying to not let them come out. I think there's a desire to have a narrative that says it's this, even if it's not. But kind of slightly related, this is where the President Trump thing goes on. So President Trump announced his desire to run again. Now I've started working on trying to figure out, looking at data when I can, is he a net positive or net negative? I'm going to do a separate video for it and maybe discuss a couple of things more in the context of an election post-mortem. But this next thing is for all the people that might be ministers out there. Minister, pastor, all of them include a rabbi, priest. And there's some Catholic priest or some leader that has already run out and endorsed Trump because of pro-life. So I was a Ted Cruz guy 2016. I knew somebody that I think has unfriended me more recently. She was all about how Ted Cruz was so horrible because of a bunch of tin hat conspiracy theories that made no sense. You had to jump through flaming hoops coming out of the water like a dolphin and do a backflip through them to make these theories work. But they brought up about what's called Seven Mountain Theology. And part of that's tied to a speech his dad did. From what I've looked into it, now some people might disagree with this if they don't like it, but it looked more like an action plan to me of how you affect change than it does with a plan for than it is a theology. Calling it a theology really doesn't make much sense to me. Let's just look up Seven Mountains Theology here. And as our Seven Mountains mandate. And it's within Pentecostal and evangelical Christianity, but everything I've looked into it doesn't really fit with any kind of thing. It gives 7 spheres of influence that Christians should involve themselves in, and if you step back and think about it, honestly, just as an action plan, saying get involved in business, get involved in politics, get involved in media, get involved in these 7 different areas. I can't remember what they all are. And some people may think it's something worse. Honestly, I'm not going to debate that. Because if you were an evangelical and you had no problem voting for Mitt Romney, who's a Mormon, and as far as I'm concerned, the Mormon church, sorry Mormons, is not a Christian church. As long as you follow Joseph Smith and all of his writings, not going to go there. If you had no problem voting for Mitt Romney, I don't want to hear complaints about the Seven Mountain Theology or Seven Mountain Mandate or any of the other versions of it. However, there's a person objecting to theology. Okay, fine. Here's my problem. When Trump ran, a bunch of evangelical leaders after South Carolina, either right before or right after South Carolina, went out and endorsed Trump over Cruz. And they basically did something. He was going to fight for us when he'd never fought for them before. They endorsed a serial adulterer, a man who owns strip clubs. Some people don't like the idea of consuming alcohol, I don't see a biblical objection to merely consuming alcohol. However, Trump also owns those kind of places, gambling places. I certainly like to play a few hands of blackjack once in a while, even if I haven't done it since I started dating my wife. He owns places where either that are directly about debauchery, he has engaged in it, or tend to encourage it. Does that sound like a person that you want to be endorsing? Because all of those evangelical leaders that endorse Trump at this point, unless they're making an argument on budget or foreign policy or something, I have no desire to listen to them. Because they endorsed a man like that. So, before endorsements happen, please think about who you're endorsing, because if you're endorsing somebody that is those things, it kind of makes me question you as a leader, not just from a political perspective of a Christian saying, I think these candidates are the people we want to get behind, but also you as a Christian leader within the Christian community. And I'm looking at this more from the political side, and I have disproportionate numbers of non-Christian friends probably, especially in the pagan side, and just for some weird reason. Okay, it's just something to think about, because it's not just going to be Trump running. Probably you're going to see somebody pop up. You might even see DeSantis actually challenge Trump. Well, he's Catholic, but he's got a much stronger record as far as the kind of things that people should want. I'm not saying Catholics aren't Christian. I'm just saying a lot of Protestant Christians might have a problem with the man's theology. All right, a lot of those same Christian people that went around out there had no problem voting for Romney. Now, I know a minister who said he wouldn't because of the theology Romney follows. But just something to think about, because do you really want to trust somebody like that when you're talking about LGBTQ issues? Trump was the first president to be for gay marriage before becoming president. And yet he was supposed to be the guy fighting for Christian values. Okay? And that is, again, not to say that there might not be reasons to side with a certain politician, because a friend of mine commented on one of my videos that said he thought I had a different approach to politics, where he was more about principle. I was like a chess game, and I said it's more like a blood sport. But it is like a chess game. You're saying, what's going to win me the game? What's going to win and ending abortion in most cases? What's going to bring back certain values into our society? Maybe you have to sacrifice your queen to do that. You know, there's a series of moves called Queen's Gambit, where you literally, the first thing you do is you run your queen out and suicide your queen. And I've never figured it out. I'm not that good a chess player. I haven't played in years. But there are those kind of things. You say, I'm going to sacrifice this spot or to do this, not because I really want to, but because it will create the greater benefit later. Kind of like having patience and not pushing laws that only get thrown out in court and strengthen a bad precedent. So for all of you, just think about that before you endorse. And that is not to say that if a person says, look, I may be a Christian minister, or I may be a rabbi, or I may be a deacon, or some other kind of worship leader, I'm endorsing this other guy despite his faults, because he's going to have a better budget plan or a better tax plan. That's one thing. But if you're going to endorse him as the guy to push your values as a faith leader, he better be upholding them, or he better have a better record of siding with you. And I mean actually in the political realm. And it's just a thought. So until then, you all take care.